Yo, trying to flow at 1.5 lungs. Yo, blessed, thank you. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah. So anyway, leaving Harlem was crazy, man. It was two reasons. We was in Taft Projects, right? So you couldn't have no dogs. We had got a German Shepherd and shit, man. He was a puppy, then he got big and some wild, not no wild shit. But anyway, you couldn't have the jury there, they was giving my people issues. Then, as I started hanging with these older cats by the mailbox, where I used to did Scorpio and all that manual. So that came in there, after I left the Saigons, I started hanging with these dudes. So, by hanging with them and hearing certain shit, I picked up. I was just advanced, man. I would run up on older, like, I was talking to older girls. It was crazy shit. Man. So this one particular day, man, I don't know how that conversation got up about, I used to fuck with G.I. Joe action figures and all that shit. And somebody had one, and I wanted this one. And I don't know how I ended up telling these cats. But anyway, the thing about making money came up. Now, growing up in Harlem, it was a lot of, it was the 70s, so you had heroin. It was crazy. It was wild. As a kid, just walking by junkies. So I could imagine how kids in the 80s and 90s, the same shit with crackheads and shit. So, it was crazy, and he's passed away, so I could speak freely, kind of. I'm going to get too much in detail, but Nicky Barnes, Leroy Nicky Barnes, right, would be in Harlem, and certain days you just had to catch him. He would buy, like when the ice cream truck came, you would hear, hey, Nicky Barnes is buying ice cream for everybody. Boom. He would try to run up there and shit. You would miss him. So it was a mission to try to damn. You know what I mean? Nicky Barnes was just Nicky Barnes and shit. So, now Harlem World, all right, when we get into the hip hop shit, there was, most of you gonna hear about clubs in the Bronx and shit, but it was definitely something in Harlem and Manhattan, but Harlem World was big. Harlem World was where Kumo D and Busy B battled. If you know that notorious battle, that's where they battled, that club. So that used to be a store called Woolworths. Back in the day, actual people, they'll tell you, old people might know, older people. It was like a Kmart type, like a little Walmart shit. So anyway, that's where they had toys and all kind of shit. So we'd go there. So back in the 70s, it was a lot of, being that people were coming from Vietnam, it was a lot of military type gear, clothes people would wear. They wasn't necessarily military, but they would have army jackets. But, they would just have, in the book bags we have were these green army looking things. There was the style for some reason. So conversation came, and then one day the dude Manuel approached me, put something in my bag, told me to take a cab from our block, which was like 115th, to 140 something. Boom. Told me don't look in the bag, right? So I don't look in the bag. So I take it, I don't know, and this is the wildest shit, because as I'm realizing this, there was not like cell phones was out there, it was pay phones. So I don't know how these cats was communicating. I don't know. So never looked in it, but it suspected it was some shit, drugs or some shit. So I get to the 140 something, I get out, there's a guy there, boom, he takes shit out my bag, put something else in my bag, I get another cab and go back to the crib, go back to the spot, the block. Get there, they give me like $30 or some shit. So I'm like, oh shit. So I go to Woolworths and I buy fucking this blow up punching thing, right? And then I buy a G.I. Joe spaceship. And I brought that shit home, and it was like, yo, I won it in a race. You know what I'm saying? Like relay races. I was bullshitting my parents, and they were like, yeah, you fast. So I was telling them I was winning races and shit. So I did that shit again whatever, I don't know how I got a raise, if you can call it a raise or what, but the third, fourth time, I got like, this happened one time, they gave me, it was $100 bill. I never even seen a $100 bill. I had no clue what it was. So they're laughing because, they're tripping on me. So I go to Woolworths and buy some, so the people are looking at me because there's a little kid with a $100 bill. So they're all looking at me like, yo, you know what I mean? So they give me the change, and whatever I bought, I still had like $80 left, $85. I had a bunch of them because back in the day I can get shit for like $7, a bunch of shit, toys and shit. So the next day, this is what fucked me up. I go to school, and I had a girlfriend. I had two. I had a ball. So Doris. So that particular day, I had all this money on me, and I was trying to spend it as fast as possible because it was accumulating. It was like, I can't just go out with my family and just pay for shit. You know what I'm saying? They were like, yo, that ain't an allowance. Like, you getting this money. So real talk. So I wild out and buy the whole class pizza, right? Because across the street, if you go back to this is PS 57 elementary school. So if you go back to PS 57, that part of the documentary, season 1, probably like episode 4 or 5 or something like that, it'll say PS 57. You'll see the store across the street was a grocery store, and it was a little, like a hamburger type, when I say hamburger, I don't want to confuse like burgers. Back in the day, it was a little store, and they cooked burgers and all kind of shit. Not all kind of shit, but burgers and store shit, newspapers and shit. So they had these cheeseburgers, the good shit, man, for like 35 cents. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I kid you not. It just was, man, listen. So, and they had a pizza shop. Remember, all right, remember where remember I said they had the pizza for 25 cents a slice. So go back to that hole when I first go back to Harlem. Spanish Harlem, East Harlem. So I buy like 2 pizza pies or 3, right? And I buy me and my girlfriend, Doris, cheeseburgers and shit. So we bring that shit to class, right? So we eating this shit. So all the class is eating pizzas and happy and shit. And this was before everybody was talking pizza party. This terminology haven't been made. I invented that shit. Fuck it. It was no such shit. I'm telling you, that was not in our diction to say pizza party. So I buy this shit the teachers is eating. So they're like, oh, Joe, what's the celebration? I'm like, oh, it's my birthday. Now it's April and shit. So we're grabbing the teacher. Everybody's, boom, the teacher's, eating and shit. Then somebody, I don't know how the rest of the teachers, the principal, everybody found out that it was going on. So everybody's eating. So then the teachers call me outside in the hall, and then I go to the office, and they said, Joe, how is it your birthday your birthday's in January? Because they're looking at my school records, and I'm like, so they like, well, how did you buy this? And I'm telling them I found it, and I kept saying I found the money. I kept saying it because I knew I couldn't. There's no way. So call my parents in and shit. And I'm like, I found it. And everybody knew I was bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how they knew, but they knew that there's no way I found this money. Somehow I got this money, but I would never crack. I never fucking told them and shit. And I think either my dad watched me. I don't know I don't know. So it was those 2 factors that the German Shepherd and, me getting ready to get into some shit that, good looking out pops. He was like, yo, Booms. And that's when we moved to the Bronx and shit. And got the house on 223rd Street and shit, and that's where all that magic began with hip hop, and not knowing that 1974 was going to be so beautiful for me because of Pumpkin, Greg, this music, you know what I'm saying, and going to Olinville and then going to Sousa and then, just seeing how that shit formed, the sizzle, man. So that's basically the wrap of what happened, how I got out, how we left Harlem, and and once I settled, the Bronx became home, man. But if I had to choose, I'd definitely move. I'll definitely live in Harlem. I'll definitely live in Manhattan, man. That's my birthplace. So, that's it. Here you go. Crow, 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 crow,